Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving into something that is literally reshaping human biology. I'm talking about an unprecedented medical milestone, the GLP-1 revolution. Let's just jump right in. Okay, we have to start with a number that is frankly, well, it's staggering. 1 in 8. More than 1 in 8 US adults have already tried drugs like Ozempic or Mounjaro. Because of this massive, lightning-fast adoption, something truly historic just happened. The national obesity rate in the US actually dropped for the first time in history. It's so impactful that by the end of 2025, the World Health Organization added GLP-1 drugs to its essential medicine list for diabetics and rolled out new guidelines for obesity. I mean, we are watching a real-time medical revolution unfold. And honestly, this historic shift was desperately needed. Just to put things into perspective, by 2025, more than half of all Europeans were either overweight or obese. And it's not just adults, that includes 1 in 3 kids. When you look at countries like the US, Mexico, or Saudi Arabia, those numbers are even steeper. Globally, we're talking about a crisis killing nearly 4 million people every single year. It is a colossal trap. And let's be clear here, the term obesity isn't some judgment on how someone looks, right? It's a strict medical reality that points to a dangerously unhealthy amount of body fat. So how exactly did humanity fall into this trap? Well, let me tell you, it is not some massive, sudden failure of willpower. It's actually an evolutionary mismatch. See, for almost all of human history, food was incredibly scarce. Our brains got wired to reward us with pure joy whenever we stumbled across a rare calorie bomb of fat, sugar, and salt. But then, our world completely changed overnight. Our modern food environment has completely hijacked our biology. Food is a product now. It's cheap, heavily calorie-dense, and hyper-palatable. These products are literally engineered with addictive levels of sugar and fat to make our reward centers just go completely ballistic. We're constantly bombarded by ultra-processed foods, deceptive serving sizes, you name it. People don't just become obese overnight. They gain it slowly, perfectly reacting to an environment designed from the ground up to make them overeat. At the root of this whole crisis is a biological reality you might not even realize. Your eating behaviors, like when you eat and exactly what you crave, are actually governed by this complex orchestra of hormones that is completely outside your conscious control. And your body fat? Well, it's one of the main conductors of this orchestra. When a person becomes overweight, that excess fat literally throws the entire hormonal orchestra out of tune. It messes up the signals. It makes you hungrier, pushes you to eat more, and creates insulin resistance. Basically, you end up fighting your own biology. And right there, that is exactly where the breakthrough happens. Tucked inside that massive biological orchestra, there's one specific hormone just playing quietly in the background. It's called GLP-1. Now, naturally, your body releases this after you eat a meal. It tells your pancreas to boost insulin to manage your blood sugar. It slows down your digestion so food actually stays in your stomach longer. And crucially, it taps your brain on the shoulder to say, hey, we're full, we're satisfied. But in nature, its effect is incredibly brief. Once it hits your bloodstream, natural GLP-1 disappears in barely 2 minutes. Its little song just fades right away. So scientists had this brilliant idea. What if we engineer artificial copies of GLP-1, copies that play their song way louder and for way longer? The first artificial GLP-1 actually got approved way back in 2005 for diabetes and then for obesity around 2014. But the real game changer hit with the modern generation of drugs, semaglutide and tirzepatide. These guys don't fade out in 2 minutes, no. They keep playing their song in your bloodstream for up to a whole week. They send out this loud, steady signal that dials down your appetite 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They send out this loud, steady signal that dials down your appetite 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This fundamentally shifts a person's daily life. You know, for a lot of people, the intense feeling of hunger is genetic. They suffer from this constant, deafening psychological urge to eat that doctors call food noise. Their bodies are essentially screaming at them all day long to find food. But with modern GLP-1 drugs, that noise just shuts off. The relief is profoundly psychological. Suddenly, people feel full and satisfied so much sooner. They're essentially dieting without burning through a single ounce of willpower. It feels almost magically effortless because the drug is fundamentally changing the underlying biology, which in turn completely changes the behavior. And the physical results? They are nothing short of astounding. Patients can lose up to 20% of their body weight in just a single year. To put that into perspective, that's a number we previously only saw with extreme bariatric surgery. But it goes way deeper than just losing fat. Getting treated with semaglutide cuts the risk of a heart attack or stroke by 20%. Tirzepatide crashes your chances of developing diabetes by a whopping 66%. It reduces sleep apnea, lowers inflammation, and researchers think it might even slow down Alzheimer's. But here is the absolute wildest part. By cranking up that GLP-1 signal, it seems to synchronize the entire metabolic orchestra to the point where it's quieting other completely unrelated cravings. Trials are actually showing it might reduce addictions to things like alcohol, nicotine, and even opioids. That's huge.
Okay, but let's take a beat for a reality check. For all these miracles, there is a very real catch. The side effects are super common, and honestly, they can be highly unpleasant. We're talking nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation. While they're usually harmless and sort of pass over time, they are tough to deal with. And then there are the more severe, though thankfully rare, risks. Under 5% of people might experience pancreatitis, kidney problems, or gallbladder disease. These are serious medical conditions that can literally land you in the ER. This right here is exactly why getting your hands on these drugs without strict medical supervision is an incredibly risky move.
Plus, the greatest strength of these drugs, that rapid, incredible weight loss, is also hiding a serious danger. Look, if you just take the shot and stop eating, you're essentially putting yourself on an unhealthy crash diet. When you eat in a really steep calorie deficit, your body doesn't just burn fat, it burns muscle too. Losing crucial muscle mass is incredibly harmful, especially as we get older. So to do this safely, you really have to protect your body. That means stepping up and adopting resistance training to keep that muscle, consuming plenty of protein, and actively building long-term healthy habits. The drug might change your biology, but it definitely does not do the heavy lifting for you. Which brings us to probably the most sobering reality of the whole GLP-1 revolution. What happens when you actually stop taking it? Well, after about a year, the weight loss naturally slows down and plateaus. If you stop the medication without having made permanent lifestyle overhauls, the weight just comes right back. Data shows 25% of people regain a significant chunk of the weight, and a full 20% put back on every single pound they lost. So without massive, permanent lifestyle changes, a lot of patients are likely looking at staying on these medications forever just to maintain their health. Ultimately, what these drugs represent isn't pure magic, especially right now when massive supply shortages and steep prices make them inaccessible to so many people who desperately need them. Although expiring patents and boosted production will eventually crash those costs down the line. But really, the true power of this GLP-1 revolution is this: it gives humanity a window of time. By silencing that intense hunger and erasing that overwhelming food noise, these drugs give people the breathing room they desperately need to fix their habits. They get to address the root causes of their condition without fighting a brutal, uphill war against their own genetics every single day. Which leaves us with a final, pretty profound question. Should we just inject obesity away? I mean, if giving these drugs to millions could prevent tens of millions of cases of heart disease and diabetes over the coming years, is a lifetime prescription the right path forward for humanity? It is a highly complex medical frontier. Sure, they make the hardest part of health easier, but they still require real effort on our part. Our biological orchestra has essentially been hacked, and the future of human health just got incredibly fascinating. Take some time to really think about what this means, not just for you, but for all of us. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.